Did I come here just to look at a broken vase? Mars looked at me like I was a bit slow. He was an arrogant guy and liked to put himself above others. You'll see everything for yourself in a second and it'll blow your mind. But first, some backstory. I was still trying to calm down and get my breathing back to normal. I got my dad's permission to throw out some of Grandpa's old stuff because all the closets are packed with it. He said I could get rid of something, but only after checking with him. So I was pulling everything out of the closets and laying it out on the floor, so my dad could come in the evening and decide what we needed and what we didn't. Honestly, if it were up to me, I'd just toss everything into bags and take it straight to the dumpster without a second thought. Did you call me over just to tell me how you're cleaning out your closet or what? My friend asked. Yeah, sorry, let me get to the point. People often pointed out my habit of torturing listeners with unnecessary details, and I was working on it. So, long story short, I found this vase in the closet. I thought maybe I should keep it. It's kind of interesting, vintage. You could even call it an antique. I was standing there, looking at it, and suddenly I saw some terrifying face reflected in it. Red, or maybe more like bright pink. And yellow eyes, sharp teeth. I got so scared I dropped the vase, and it broke. I swallowed, remembering that terrifying face, how it laughed silently, reflected in the patterned glass. Mars was still looking at me like I'd lost my mind and didn't understand why he'd been pulled away from his important business. Now grab some kind of glass and look through it. Just take a look around the room, I said. My friend didn't argue. He squatted down, picked up a larger shard, and held it up to his eye. What am I supposed to? Whoa. Mars's face stretched in surprise. I knew it would be like that. Through those pieces of glass, the room looked different. It seemed that, through the pale, plain wallpaper, you could see brick walls in some places, and there were dirty footprints on the floor and the carpet. And also, someone short and barrel-shaped was standing in the far corner by the open closet. But you couldn't make him out because the glass was too cloudy or foggy. Mars wiped the glass, looked around the room with surprised eyes, then squinted again and looked through it. Interesting effect, he said. And how do you explain that? I asked. Metaphysics, Mars muttered. He was a smart guy, which is why I invited him to check out these wonders. We were neighbors and had been friends since preschool. And that nickname came from our childhood. His real name was Sasha Marsev. He loved all sorts of experiments. When he was 6, his parents gave him a kit called Amazing Chemistry, and after that, there was no stopping him. Mars turned his room into a science lab, and the consequences of that were mixed. I can't even count how many times the wiring in his apartment short-circuited, or when he burned a hole in the carpet with acid. And once, I saw him without eyebrows or eyelashes. When I asked what happened, he replied, "Oh, just a small gas explosion." Mars would pick up other shards from the floor, try to look through them, but only sighed in disappointment. Cloudy glass. I wonder, if you melt it down and make a clear lens, will the effect disappear or become sharper? My friend was talking to himself, examining the glass pieces with fascination, as if they were precious gems. Can you remelt glass? I asked. My eyes were still searching the room for something that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Have you ever even opened a physics textbook? Mars gathered the shards into the surviving bottom of the vase and asked, "Will you give them to me? I want to study them. Who knows, maybe we'll make a discovery." "Go ahead, take them. Just tell me later what you find out," I asked, After my friend left, I started to feel uneasy. It felt like there was someone else in the room. It's just that this someone was invisible. I got goosebumps from the feeling that someone was watching me. I wanted to believe that Mars would come back and explain, without all his complicated words, that it was all just tricks of light refraction. But he never came back. My old friend disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. His relatives said it was as if he had vanished right from his room. His mom went in, the light was on, but her son was gone. His phone was there, his shoes were still in the hallway. He couldn't have just disappeared after messing around with his experiments. The police had been searching for Mars for several days already. His parents were beside themselves, and I was haunted by a sense of guilt. I didn't understand how, but I felt it might be connected to the magic glass pieces. I wanted to get into his room and check everything out myself. So I decided to be sneaky. His mom, Galina Vasilyevna, opened the door. Her eyes were red and swollen, as if she'd been crying forever. "Vanya, why are you here? Did you find out anything about Sasha?" There was a note of hope in her hoarse voice. "No, Sasha borrowed something from me, but it's not actually mine, so I need to get it back." My voice sounded like I didn't believe what I was saying myself. "What do you need to get back?" Galina Vasilyevna asked, furrowing her brows. "Well, it's just a personal item belonging to one of my relatives," I replied, almost telling the truth. "Can I come in and see where where Sasha left it?" "All right, come in," the woman said, finally letting me into the apartment. Mars's room looked like a cross between a mad scientist's lab and the home of a hardcore collector. On the shelves stood sealed and open jars filled with liquids, vinyl figurines of anime characters with oversized heads, and all sorts of other toy junk. On the floor, boxes were piled up, stuffed with wires, tools, and rubber gloves. On the nightstand by the bed was a tall stack of manga volumes that Mars loved so much. There were also empty soda cans sitting there. And in all this chaos, I almost immediately spotted what I needed. On the desk, next to a gas burner, lay a pair of homemade glasses, crooked lenses with a frame and arms made out of wire. So that's what he did with the shards of the broken vase. I carefully picked up the glasses. The lenses had flaws. There was tiny debris stuck in the glass and air bubbles remained. But still, they were transparent. I didn't even notice myself putting them on. It just happened automatically. Almost poking myself in the eye with the crooked temple, I put this clumsy thing on my face, and the lenses showed me things that weren't really there. Large letters on the walls, inscriptions written in blood on the wallpaper. "Vanya, I knew you would come. Inhumans. Now I'm one of them too. Take the glasses." My heart almost jumped out of my chest when I saw that. Mars did it. He made the lenses so transparent that now the anomalies looked as clear as reality itself. At that moment, the missing friend's mother peeked into the room. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked. I tore off the glasses and replied, "Yes, thank you. I'm leaving now." The woman looked at what I was holding and asked, almost reproachfully, "Is that what you came for?" "Yeah, it's my grandpa's." I nodded and instinctively stuffed the glasses into the pocket of my hoodie. Galina Vasilyevna shot me an accusing look for wasting her last bit of strength on something so unworthy, but held back and only said, "Thank you for visiting." I stepped out into the stairwell, took the glasses out of my pocket, as if to make sure I really had taken them. And suddenly, in the lenses, that face appeared to me again. A terrifying creature seemed to be standing right in front of me. It was short and squat, like a penguin, and its face was completely absurd. A bright pink, yellow-eyed, small-toothed mug with pointy elf ears sticking out. It opened its mouth, and a sinister laugh echoed throughout the stairwell. I flinched as if I'd been shocked by electricity and quickly stuffed the glasses into my pocket. All right, the strange lenses were showing things that weren't really there. But where did the sound come from? I looked around, but didn't see anyone. The stairwell was quiet, but it felt like the echo still hung in the air, ringing in the windows and the railings, a reminder of the monstrous vision. I should just smash those glasses and throw them away, so I don't have to deal with these, what did Mars call them, metaphysical beings. But the magic lenses are the only key to figuring out what happened to my friend. I went back home, walked into the living room, and, mustering up my courage, put on the glasses. The room changed. The lenses showed everything a little differently. It seemed like the lamp was shining dimly, and the walls had become slightly transparent. I could see the outlines of bricks and the lines of wires hidden behind the wallpaper. On the floor, there were footprints, the prints of bare feet. It was as if someone had been walking around our apartment, slapping their dirty heels on the floor. There was no one by the wardrobe. Although last time, someone had been standing there, most likely that pointy-eared little guy. I took off my glasses, brought a bucket of soapy water and a mop, cleaned the floor, and looked through the lenses again. The dirty footprints were gone. Good. That meant dealing with metaphysical messes was no harder than dealing with regular ones. To wash that grime off myself, I took a shower. After the hot water, the air in the house felt cool. I immediately wanted to put on something warm. I reached into the closet for my favorite fleece pajamas, and suddenly someone grabbed my elbow in there. Bony fingers squeezed my arm hard. With a scream, I tore myself free from the animal-like grip and jumped back. "What are you yelling about in there?" my father called out from the other room. "It's fine," I replied, hastily throwing on whatever I could find. In the closet, hangers with clothes were falling one after another, as if someone was fussing around in there, but no one could be seen. Glasses. I put them on to try and see the invisible person. There was a man in my closet, emaciated down to the bone. He was sitting in a pitiful pose, pressed into the corner, as if hiding in fear. And it was Mars. I recognized him, despite the monstrous changes. He had become so skinny, it was as if he was preparing to disappear completely. His mouth had shrunk to a tiny slit, his ears had shriveled, and there was almost nothing left of his nose. But his eyes. On the contrary, they had become huge and bulging, like chicken eggs. "Mars, what happened to you?" I whispered, unable to contain my horror. He opened his tiny mouth and said very quietly, "I watched for too long, watched with all my eyes." "What are you doing here?" I adjusted my glasses to see him more clearly. The emaciated, big-eyed Mars crawled out of the closet. He was wearing only a t-shirt, but it hung from his skinny body like a robe, even covering his knees. "I was waiting for you to find me, so I could tell you and warn you." "The glasses are my gift to you," my friend replied. "Just be careful with them. Use them rarely, not like I did. You can see the consequences yourself." I don't need them, I said, realizing that, unlike him, I wasn't planning to study the metaphysical world. Don't turn them down. Mars smiled as widely as he could. They might come in handy. Remember the old house on Bakinski Lane? Go there before they tear it down. You'll thank me later. He winked his huge eye and shuffled toward the door. But then he stopped to say one more thing. And also, beware of the little goblin. He's nasty and sneaky. In general, if you meet any non-humans, just ignore them, pretend they don't exist. Mars, where are you going? I asked. To see what I haven't seen yet. There are so many amazing sights around now. He disappeared into the darkness of the hallway and fell silent, as if he had melted into it. I never saw him again. He became someone you could only see through magic glasses, which meant he had left the human world. I felt sorry for his family. They were hoping for his return in vain. The old house on Bakinski Lane is a ruin, a windowless temple without a roof. And the brickwork there is so ancient that you can dig it out with your hands, like a pile of wet sand. It used to be our old place to play. I went there late in the evening only because Mars told me to. I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted to find out why he sent me there. I put on my glasses, looked at the house, and immediately a silvery flash hit my eyes. In the window on the first floor, a light was pulsing, beckoning me like a lighthouse. It was scary to go in there. I've always been cowardly and never craved adventure. But I went anyway, hoping I wouldn't regret it. I crawled through a hole in the wall that used to be a door. Inside, it was pitch dark, but the glasses let me see everything clearly. Bits of concrete and broken glass crunched under my feet. I carefully stepped across the rotten floor toward the shimmering wall. Silvery light was seeping through a crack in the bricks. There was something there. I found a twisted rod from a grate in a pile of construction debris, with a wrought decorative tip shaped like a leaf, and, not even knowing why, I started hitting the crack in the wall with it. Somewhere deep inside, I had this foolish hope that if I did everything right, this grim story would have a happy ending. The wall crumbled with a crunch, bricks tumbled down onto the floor. I jumped back so my legs wouldn't get hit. Something clinked in the darkness. It turned out to be a metal box. I picked it up. It was heavy. I brushed off the dust, tried to open it, and accidentally tore off the lid. Inside were coins. Ancient ones, by the look of them. Roughly stamped with uneven edges, unclear inscriptions and images. A whole 15 of them. They were probably worth something. So that's what it was. Mars had pointed me to the hiding place. No one even knew that there were treasures hidden in this old house. I was about to leave when something heavy fell on my head. I hid the find in my jacket pocket and started to climb back. But suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my leg below the knee. Something sharp cut through my pants and pierced my skin. And then the ruins shook with monstrous laughter. Your greedy hands. You took half the price for the eternal curse of your only friend, came a spiteful hiss. It was that pink runt, the little goblin, as Mars had called him. He was holding onto my leg, digging in with his sharp nails. I had no idea what he was babbling about. But what did it matter? His terrifying mug made me forget about everything else. All I wanted was to break free and run. I jerked my leg away and left a piece of my pant leg in the goblin's fingers. He brought it up to his nose and took a loud sniff. There it is. The scent of a greedy soul. I had to awaken the dormant actor in me just to keep a straight face. Yoshkin Djarwayan, I swore in my father's style, pretending I just scraped my leg on something and limped toward the exit. The little runt glared at me with his yellow eyes in the dark and snorted in annoyance. It seemed like he was expecting a different reaction. Then I took off my glasses, and he was gone. I didn't have to look for some shady shop with a sly old fox peering at jewels through a loop and misleading you about their real value. Turns out, there are plenty of online services where they can estimate the value of a gem just from a photo. I took a picture of a couple of coins and sent it to one of the appraisers. Soon I got a reply saying that most likely I was holding 10th century silver coins. In the same message, they offered me a tidy sum for them. I did a quick calculation in my head of how much I could get for all 15 silver coins, and I broke out in a sweat. Half the price of an apartment in a new residential complex. Mars was right. These glasses are a useful thing. Because of them, you might run into non-humans or even become something terrifying yourself. But they show you where treasures are hidden. I smiled, imagining what unimaginable riches they could lead me to. Korataiga was right. After all, there was some greed in me. I tried to be careful. When walking around the old part of the city, I didn't put the glasses on, just looked at the houses through the lenses. I hoped that maybe something would glint in the windows. But no, only unpleasant faces, skulls, or half-beast muzzles would sometimes appear there. It was scary to look at them. And yet, I still wanted to search for that coveted glimmer. Somewhere out there, treasures could be hidden. It felt like an obsession. I wandered the streets until late in the evening, then went back home. I hid the glasses deeper in the closet. The next day was a day off, and I planned to spend it searching for treasure. For that, I needed a good night's sleep. However, I wasn't allowed to sleep. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a noise. Strange creatures had entered my room. They were small, like children, and started searching the place. I wanted to scream, but I was afraid of waking my parents. There were 3 of the children. They ran everywhere, tossing drawers out of the desk, scattering my things all over the floor, knocking books off the shelves. And what's interesting is, they weren't human. But I saw them without my glasses, and I saw them as real as can be. Children, only instead of human heads, they had toy heads. One boy, wearing short shorts and a young pioneer scarf, had the head of a plush teddy bear sitting on his shoulders. Another boy, dressed in an old school uniform, had a cheerful monkey face, much too small for such a big body. And the girl in a brown dress and white apron had the head of a roly-poly toy with sly little eyes dangling from the stump of her neck. The young pioneer with the bear's head made his way to the wardrobe. He knocked a stack of t-shirts off the shelf, and along with them, a pair of homemade glasses fell to the floor. The boy immediately picked them up and stuffed them into his pocket. The strange children instantly stopped making a mess. They had already found what they were looking for. And I screamed, no longer afraid of waking anyone up. "Bastards! Give it back. That's mine. The thieves ran out of the room in formation, and I threw off my blanket and rushed after them. It felt like I had been robbed of the most precious, the most important thing I had ever owned in my life. "Stop!" I shouted at the top of my lungs. And yet my family didn't wake up, as if there was no one else in the apartment. I hoped to catch the little thieves, but they vanished, melted into the darkness, just like Mars had recently. But in the hallway, I almost ran into a pink goblin. He was standing by the front door, looking me in the eyes with a sad smile. "Why can I see you?" "I don't even have my glasses on," I said out loud, deciding not to pretend. "Why do you need glasses when you've become one of us?" The goblin cackled, his mouth wide open, full of tiny teeth. I grabbed my face. "One of you? What happened to me? Do I look like a monster now too?" With these thoughts, I rushed back to my room and turned on the light to see myself in the mirror. But in the reflection, there was only the room and a complete mess everywhere. The large, wooden wardrobe was flung wide open, its contents spilling out. Desk drawers were completely overturned, their contents scattered across the floor. Books were strewn haphazardly all around the room. But when I looked into the reflective surface of the mirror, I wasn't there. I had utterly vanished from this world, leaving no trace behind.